Well, Krishna, the ongoing ructions within the Republican Party over what to do about the problem that is the pro-Trump Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene continues. The plan had been to force her to apologise for offensive comments and for seeming to condone violence against the Democrats. That hasn't happened, and nor will the Republicans force her, remove her from the two congressional committees that she sits on, which is what the Democrats had asked them to do. I went along to her office again today to see what she had to say about all this. Let's see how that went. Congresswoman, are you ready to apologise? Are you prepared to make an apology? Congresswoman? Are you going to make an apology? Will you stand down from either of your committees? Well, what happens next at 3 o'clock today? The Democrats are going to pass a resolution to force a vote to remove her from those committees. There are worries, A, about the precedent that will set, and B, that it will only empower her with her supporter base, the same supporter base, of course, as Donald Trump.
Siobhan Kennedy. Well, Congressman James Clyburn is the third-ranking Democrat and Majority Whip in the House of Representatives. His endorsement was hugely influential in Joe Biden's campaign, and he joins us now from Washington, D.C. Thank you for coming on the programme, Congressman.
Well, thank you for having me.
Is there going to be any accountability when it comes to Donald Trump?
I think so. I would say that we've already impeached him, which is an indictment. That is the accountability that the House has the authority to issue. Now it's up to the Senate to see whether or not they will convict and whether or not they use their authority to express their disapproval. So we'll see.
I mean, the indications are that there aren't enough Senate Republicans who are prepared now to convict him. I mean, if Donald Trump is free to stand again or to be a kingmaker for the next election, how much of a threat is he to American democracy?
He's always a threat to American democracy, and it will also be an albatross around the necks of Republicans. So that's a decision that will be up to them. I do believe that Democrats demonstrated, and a lot of responsible Republicans as well, last November 3rd, what they feel about Donald Trump. And I think that if given the opportunity, they will do so again. Only this time, people will have an opportunity to have lived under the presidency of a Joe Biden, and they'll have much more material from which to make decisions.
Now, we spoke to you last time after, I think, Joe Biden had consulted you about his vice presidential choice. At the end of last year, you did raise some questions about whether his cabinet was as diverse as it could have been. When you look at his team now, does it reflect America?
What my issue was at the time, you may recall, he issued his first nominations, his security team. There was one thing missing from the security team at the time, and that was Secretary of Defense. And at the time, all we saw about the Secretary of Defense, the names we saw, would not have added to the diversity. So I said what I did at the time because I thought we had the Secretary of State, we had the Secretary of the Treasurer, and other positions as well. Those were not diverse enough for me. And as I said at the time, and I've said pretty often, as I was told to me as a child, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And first impressions are very lasting. So that's why I spoke up the way I did. But I am very pleased with what they've done up to this point.
So when you look at first impressions and President Biden's executive orders in his first days in office, what do you think he's actually changed? In what way has he made things better?
Oh, he's rescinded. So many of those executive orders were rescinding bad stuff done by Donald Trump. So it's almost immediate. And I'm getting great reviews of these special orders. And the 3 more again today dealing with immigration. And I think that there'll be still others. I remind people that the Emancipation Proclamations there were two of them, were both executive orders. Harry Truman integrated the armed services here in the United States by executive order. So executive orders can not only be important, but they can be lasting. There's never been any legislation that I know about to integrate the armed forces of the United States of America, nor was there any legislation that freed slaves. We did get the constitutional amendment that came some 7 years after the Emancipation Proclamation.
When you look at what's happening to this Congresswoman, this Republican Congresswoman, and the attempts to take her off committees, and the further pursuance of Donald Trump, some people say, well, why not just leave it to the American people when it comes to election time? Why do you feel you need to take away their right to choose?
Well, for the same reason that we have oversight. We don't have autocrats in this country. We don't have kings. The legislature is here, the Congress, as oversight. And when we see that there needs to be something done, we do it. So having an impeachment of Donald Trump is not precedent setting. We can go back to Andrew Johnson, was impeached. We saw Bill Clinton being impeached. So we've had impeachment before. There's nothing precedent setting about that.
Congressman James Clyburn, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me.